For the News and Observer, I'm Capitol Bureau Chief and Under the Dome host Don Vaughan for this latest episode for the week of June 17th, 2024. I'm here today in our studio with politics team colleagues Avi Bajpai, who's my colleague at the legislature, Korie Dean, who covers higher ed, and here in Raleigh is our DC correspondent down here on assignment, Danielle Battaglia. So first off, we should talk about what'll be maybe the biggest news at the legislature this coming week, but we've been fooled before, so this is just, projection at this point. There are House appropriations meetings scheduled. Basically, what's going on is Speaker Moore and Senate Leader Berger have not come to an agreement on this year's budget, which is the budget adjustment bill. It's not the big 2-year budget, but generally they pass one in the even years that has some new stuff in it, and they've decided they want to work it out amongst each other, or they did initially, except the House and the Senate budget writers and the leadership are not on the same page in spending, and Berger has said repeatedly that the House wants to spend too much money on pork and not keep enough in savings. So the House said, we're tired of waiting. We are going to move forward and present our own budget, which is the typical process that you see in the long session. So Berger isn't having it. To quote him from the last Senate session this past week, he said, "We, the Senate, we're not going in that direction. We spent a decade and a half trying to make sure that we don't fall into the same traps that the Democrats fell into, which is if you've got the money, spend it." So he basically called the House Republicans a bunch of Democrats, was kind of my take. What do you all think?
Yeah, this has been kind of bubbling up for the last few weeks. We've been hearing this from Senator Berger that their talks are kind of stalling and they're not really headed in a productive direction. And I think I see it kind of notable that the House is really just deciding to release its own budget, vote on it. It to me kind of seems like, the kind of least productive point for talks this whole session so far.
They usually argue when Republicans didn't have a supermajority. It was, still arguing between the chambers, but the big battle was between, the Democratic governor and the Republican legislators. And now that they have the veto-proof supermajority, they are just fighting amongst themselves, pretty much. And Berger also said, and I think he'll make good on what he said, because Berger generally does. He said the Senate's position has been that when we get to June the 30th, if we don't have a budget adjustment bill done, we'll either going to adjourn if the House, because the House has to agree to adjourn too, or we'll go into skeletal sessions, which is what's happened in years past with this day in, day out, and then they'll come around. So that's what's going on this week, which might be the biggest news, but it's North Carolina politics, so that could change. Let's move on to why Danielle Battaglia, our DC correspondent, is in North Carolina, who covers Congress and the White House for us and other McClatchy papers, and then, of course, our North Carolina representation there. So, Danielle, what are you up to?
I am traveling the eastern-ish side of the state, talking to voters about how they feel about the presidential election and somewhat the gubernatorial election. I've been really curious just to get back down to North Carolina and pick the brains of people who actually go to the ballot box and cast votes with just what they thought of the Trump verdict. We've got sentencing coming up before the RNC holds their convention, and I'll be up there. And so I just really wanted to come down here and see what the people are thinking and how these big moments in history are shaping our voters' views on the election.
With the Republican National Convention coming up, how important is North Carolina's involvement in it? And who all from North Carolina do you know is going to be there?
It is huge. Right now, we have former NCGOP chairman Michael Whatley running RNC. We've got Laura Trump as co-chair. She is from Wilmington. And we've got Chris LaCivita, which I'm pretty sure I've never said correctly, so I'm very sorry, Chris, if you're listening. He is also on the team running RNC. So, and he has worked on various North Carolina campaigns. And so, we've got a lot of power from North Carolina now running the actual committee. And then there are a lot of big names that I have seen already on a list of people attending. House Speaker Tim Moore's on the list. I believe Robinson was on the list. Trying to think off the top of my head who all I've seen, but I think you'll see a lot of candidates who are running, some that don't currently hold office, some that do hold office. I believe they're expected to go. So it'll be interesting. I'm really curious who won't show up more than who will show up and how that's going to shape things. And so I'll be watching out for that and reporting daily for you guys on all the festivities in Milwaukee.
Who do you think won't show up?
I'm curious about Senator Tillis. I'm curious about Representative McHenry because he's leaving office, whether he'll be there. It's people like that I'm just curious where they'll land, whether Senator Berger will be there. I haven't heard one way or another, I don't think. And so, just keeping an eye out on people like that.
One place we do know that Berger has been this past weekend, somebody asked him in the gaggle if he was going to the, was it Big Rock Fishing? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
That apparently most of the lawmakers went to, and it's why there wasn't anything going on Thursday. Definitely no budget negotiations, but probably some legislation in the coming week. Before we get to our break, I want to turn to UNC and higher education. It's been a somewhat quieter time at the Ledge this session. Of course, it's summer break for universities now. But the main thing at UNC System, as far as the political crossover news, was its repeal of DEI and leadership transitions. There was a new chancellor just this past week named at NC Central University. So, Korie, what's going on during this summertime that's slow, but not really?
Yeah, it's kind of the summer of chancellor searches, new chancellors. There are current openings or searches or soon-to-be searches at, I believe, 4 schools. That's NC A&T. That one I think will wrap up the soonest. I think they wanted it to be done by the end of the academic year. That didn't quite happen, but I think it's expected to be soon. We also have UNC Chapel Hill, of course, and then Appalachian State University, and then Elizabeth City State University, where an opening is now open because like you said, the chancellor at NC Central, she had been the chancellor at Elizabeth City. So lots of searches going on, lots of new faces. There are searches that have recently ended. So I think by my count, there will be 7 or 8 new chancellors in the UNC system sometime this year. So
What should people know about the new NCCU chancellor in term?
Yeah, so Carrie Dixon will be the chancellor starting July 1st. Like I said, she was at Elizabeth City. I think by all accounts, she did incredible work, I would say, at Elizabeth City. That school was 10 years ago on the brink of closing, and she really came in and kind of turned things around. She really had the university emphasize its aviation program, and that's become a really unique offering in the UNC system and even just kind of on the East Coast, I believe. Central, she also grew enrollment at ECSU by about 70%. So, Central's enrollment has been a little stagnant, if not declining over the past few years. So, I talked to her after she was elected, and she definitely wants to focus on that, maybe not emphasizing the traditional high school to college pipeline as much, but maybe focusing on adult learners, military, things like that. So, I think it'll be interesting to see how she applies what she learned in Elizabeth City to NCCU.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about, a little bit more about higher education, this UNC survey, what's been going on in the governor's race, and our picks for headliner of the week. We'll be right back.
Get in the game with the college-branded Venmo debit card. Wrap your team with every tap and earn up to 5% cash back with Venmo Stash, a new rewards program from Venmo. No monthly fee, no minimum balance, just school pride and spending power. Get in the game and sign up for the Venmo debit card at venmo.com/collegecard. The Venmo MasterCard is issued by the Bancorp Bank N.A. Select schools available. Venmo Stash terms and exclusions apply at venmo.me/stash terms. Max $100 cash back per month.
Are you stuck staring at your W-2? Are tax refund worries holding you back? You probably have FOMO, the fear of messing up. The fix? Using TurboTax on Intuit Credit Karma. They find every credit and deduction to help you get every refund dollar you deserve. Or your money back. It's time to overcome your fear of messing up and get your taxes done right. Start filing today in the Credit Karma app.
You're listening to Under the Dome. I'm Capitol Bureau Chief Dawn Vaughan, here with Korie Dean, Avi Bajpai, and Danielle Battaglia. Before the break, we were talking about higher ed and the UNC system. There's also a survey that came out about UNC Chapel Hill and their chancellor search. So what did you learn?
Yeah, so again, like several other schools, UNC is looking for a chancellor. And typically, as part of these processes, all the campuses have an open online survey that people can fill out, just saying, strengths of the campus, weaknesses, and what they'd like to see in the chancellor. So the one for UNC was published this past week. Kind of run-of-the-mill stuff, but, of course, people want a strong leader or a strategic leader, but they also want someone specifically at UNC who respects academic freedom and freedom of expression, which obviously has been a big topic lately. They want someone with strong financial acumen, which makes sense because UNC is so large. It has the hospital associated with it. It's a very complex enterprise. It was interesting to see what the general public, alumni, students, faculty want in the next chancellor, and that process will continue throughout the summer and hopefully have a new chancellor by the end of the year, if not sooner.
So, to turn things back to the legislature for a minute, there was a lot happening last week. Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson was at the building, not quite inside the building, but out front by the building. Dawn, you were covering that. It was a rally with Moms for Liberty. What was going on there?
Right. So to tie that to higher ed, Robinson's kind of the gist of his speech to Moms for Liberty, which is the group that rose during COVID over their anti-masks in schools, and then a lot of what they've described as indoctrination in classrooms, that sort of thing, which is a bit of what Robinson also represents. It's the second year in a row he's been at their legislative days. One of the Moms for Liberty women told me, and he also spoke at their big annual national event. So he came to talk. He came to the outside of the legislative building. The role of the lieutenant governor in North Carolina, there's very few duties you actually have. You sit on Council of State, the Community Colleges Board, the State Board of Education, and you're the Senate president, which means that you only vote in case of a tie, but you're actually supposed to preside over the Senate. The last lieutenant governor, Dan Forest, he didn't preside very much, especially when he was running for office. Robinson was there here and there. It's usually Senate Leader Phil Berger, who's the president pro tem, that presides most of the time. But early on, Robinson came. He really just is not there. There was a Senate session that morning. Robinson came, did not go into the building. He came to talk at the same time as that just gavel in session to Moms for Liberty. He did not want to talk to reporters, even a couple minutes, which is kind of the general standard of most people that have some sort of statewide level of being elected by voters. And then he was not at the Senate session later. So other people have noticed in the primary, State Treasurer Dale Folwell, Republican who lost to Robinson the primary, Attorney Bill Graham, the businessman who also lost to Robinson, both of them had noted that Robinson didn't come to work very much for the taxpayer-funded job, which I believe is around 157 or so thousand, and then they'll get another raise this coming year. So that is the latest on the crossover of lieutenant governor and higher ed factor. He'd mentioned that DEI already being eliminated in higher ed, he'd like it in schools and state government too. So we'll find out whatever else happens this week, including what Avi we'll start with you for headliner of legislation we might see move this week.
Yeah, something that I've been tracking for a while now that had some movement in the Senate right at the start of this session, which is the ICE bill requiring all sheriffs in the state to cooperate with ICE. We've been following this closely. It's sort of in this middle land where the House has appointed conferees for a conference committee. The Senate hasn't, but that doesn't necessarily mean that talks aren't happening. So we're waiting to see if there might be some movement this week and actually a conference report might be ready and voted on finally.
We'll see what happens with the House's budget attempts. And the Senate has their own action plan this week too. Wednesday is a federal holiday of Juneteenth, but in the state, it's a floating holiday. From my understanding, when Juneteenth became a federal holiday, the state added it, but because of what statute limits on the number of state employee holidays, they used it as a floater instead of something for everybody. So it looks like state employees, a lot of them anyway, are going to work on Wednesday, where federal employees won't. It's a company holiday for a lot of people, including here at McClatchy. So Danielle, who or what is your headliner of the week?
Throwing it back to Capitol Hill, there's been a lot of interesting appearances, including Usher, which is not my headliner of the week at the Capitol, but former President Donald Trump made his first visit back to Capitol Hill post January 6th today, which is always going to throw us into pandemonium up there. Whenever we have a big visit, you're going to see us 100 reporters deep trying to figure out what's going on. Lots of things have been said. I'm still sussing out fact versus fiction. It sounds like a lot of reporters are too. He met with Republicans, and lots of history being made up there.
This is as of Thursday afternoon when we're recording it. So he did go inside, just not on the lawn for a rally or a march.
I have not fully confirmed exactly where he's been yet.
Okay, and the police said fine. All right, Korie, who or what is your headliner?
Yeah, sticking with higher ed. On Thursday, as we're recording this, the chancellor at UNC Asheville has announced that she plans to cut 4 academic programs, curtail another by eliminating some of the concentrations within the department. This is a result of the university's having a pretty significant decline in enrollment over the past several years. It's about a 25% decline. They're facing a $6 million budget shortfall. So UNC Greensboro went through a similar cut earlier this year. So it's the end of the fiscal year, so trying to get those budgets back in line, I guess.
In some places, I guess.
Yeah, in some places,
Not
yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, it's worth noting, I think everyone that listens to Under the Dome knows, but because of the continuing resolution here in the Old North State, if there's no new budget, there's things pass at the same rate as the year before. And then Senate Leader Berger said multiple times that there's already a 2-year budget in place, which is true, but there is one final step I learned this week from fiscal research. So shout out to those analysts, that the ledge does have to take action to actually implement, even though the money is already appropriated, teacher raises. So my headliner this week is about food and the ledge. I talk a lot about the lemon chicken soup. The lawmakers that have been on the podcast talk about how fried chicken is one of the best things in the cafeteria. Our colleague Luciana Perez Uribe Ginasi had the ledge fried chicken for the first time this week. I believe she's not on this episode, but she really liked it. So my headliner is actually the chicken casserole, the unsung hero of the legislative cafeteria menu. It's pretty good. And Kyle Ingram, who you hear on the podcast too, also said it was great. So all right, for the News and Observer, I'm Dawn Vaughan with Avi Bajpai, Danielle Battaglia, and Korie Dean. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
For more from our politics team, subscribe to the News and Observer at newsobserver.com/subscribe. Follow us on Twitter at Under the Dome and NC Insider, and sign up for our weekly political newsletter, also called Under the Dome, at newsobserver.com/newsletters. Thanks for listening.